Okay, I'll begin the session now. Good evening, guys. Hope everything is great at your end. So, a little about the session. So, the session will basically cover artificial intelligence on Azure, and in the end, we'll do a hands on model on OpenCV using computer vision. So I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Ananya Singhal, a fresher at Shivnada University. I'm also an Alpha Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. I'm so glad you all could join us today. A quick overview. First, Ankur, my co-host, will tell you all about Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, some of its benefits that the program offers, and how to apply for the same. And from there on, I'll take you guys along on an artificial intelligence adventure. I highly encourage you guys to stay till the very end because you all will be getting certificates from the Microsoft Student Program. I would also be happy to connect with you guys on LinkedIn, so Ankur can drop the link on the chat box. Okay, and I'll first introduce the key takeaways of the session. So we'll first introduce the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program, then introduction to artificial intelligence, then understanding machine learning, understanding anomaly detection, understanding computer vision, and then understanding natural learning process. After this, we'll do a hands-on artificial intelligence with OpenCV, then a summary and a quick Q&A session. So over to Ankur, he'll introduce himself and then after that he'll introduce the MLSA program. Over to you, Ankur.
Okay, so hello everyone. Ananya, can you please confirm that I'm audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, so hello everyone. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. So I am Ankur Gupta. I am also an Alpha Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador along with Ananya. I am a fresher at University Institute of Technology, RGPU Bhopal. I am basically an app developer currently. I am working through Flutter. You can also connect with me through LinkedIn. I'll provide the link in the chat section. Now I'll be introducing you all and giving you a brief introduction to Microsoft Student Learn Ambassador program. I'll show you what exactly it is and how you all can apply. So Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program is a program which is aimed to bring together all the students from all over the world who have the passion for technology, have the desire and craze to learn more about technology and help the community. So being a part of a community is one of the benefits of Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. To apply for it, you must be at least 16 years old. You should have a valid identification and you should be enrolled in an accredited higher education academic institution. Also, it would be nice if you have a little bit of coding background, but you did not need to be a pro at anything. Um, Anyone can apply for it. So, what are the benefits of being a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador? So, as an ambassador, you get access to Microsoft 365, TechSmith, Snagit, and Camtasia, which are screen capture and recording software. You get Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. You get $150 monthly Azure credits. You get NTC exam vouchers. You get access to LinkedIn Learning. You get free name.com domain name. You get event support. You can also get a chance to engage with cloud advocates and Microsoft most valued professionals. You also get my student ambassador badges to highlight your accomplishments on your LinkedIn profile. So these are some milestone and benefits of Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. You can have a quick look at this. These are basically the milestones which you can achieve as an ambassador. So now how you can apply. So there is this link, studentambassadors.microsoft.com, through which you can apply for. When you apply for, you need to provide your details such as your name, your last name, your contact email address, your country, etc. For in the next page, um, you in the next page you also need to provide your country, your place of residence, your address and things such as these. Also there is this very important section where you need to provide a written sample of your application. This is basically divided into three sections: inspire, teach and promote. So make sure your answers are honest and genuine. Try to explain why you are passionate about technology and what made you inspired in your best way. This is very much important part of the application process. Also, you need to mention all your achievements, including your projects, what are programming languages that you've learned or you're working on. If you have won any competition, any workshop, feel free to also mention these achievements. Take an example and explain how you would teach a concept to a peer. Also, if you are hosting an event, do explain how would you plan on organizing it from the start, how would you promote it, and things such as these. So also, you also need to provide a video demonstration. You can provide a video for all the three parts, but at least you need to provide one single video. You can just create a video. You can upload it on YouTube, and you can promote and you can provide its link in the application section. So, video part is also an important part of the application process. Uh, Other than that, you also need to provide your social media links, such as if you are writing a blog or if you have any website which you are working on, you can provide their links as well. If you have a GitHub link, you can also provide that link here. If you have a LinkedIn link, you can also provide your LinkedIn link here. And also, if you like to create any technical videos, you can also share their link as well. So this is how you can apply for the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program. Now I would like to invite Ananya to start the next part of the session on by introducing us to artificial intelligence. Over to you, Ananya.
Thanks, Ankur. It was a very good introduction. So I'll start with what is AI. So what is AI? So AI is basically the creation of software that imitates human behaviors and capabilities. So John McCarthy was the first person to coin the term artificial intelligence. In simple words, AI is intelligence demonstrated by machines. Unlike the natural intelligence displayed by humans and animals, which involves consciousness and emotions. So machines are programmed to think like humans and mimic human actions. So a lot of times this question is getting raised that what is the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence? So machine learning is often the foundation for an artificial system. So what you can see in the image is that the artificial intelligence is the bigger bubble, and inside that machine learning is a smaller part of it. So what is AI? So what is machine learning? So machine learning is a way we teach a computer model to make predictions and draw conclusions from the data. Okay, now diving into artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is of two types, type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is based on the capabilities and type 2 is based on the functionality. So I'll briefly discuss what type 1 and type 2 does. So type 1 is further narrowed, basically divided into three parts: narrow AI, general AI, and strong AI. So narrow AI is basically a type of AI which is able to perform a dedicated task with intelligence. So the most common and currently available AI is narrow AI in the world of artificial intelligence. Then we have the general AI. So general AI is the type of intelligence which could perform any intellectual task with efficiency like a human. So general AI is equivalent to human acts. And the third is super AI. So super AI is a level of intelligence of system at which machines could surpass human intelligence and could perform any task better than human with cognitive properties. It is the outcome of general AI. So strong AI is the much higher level of general AI. So in strong AI, it gives the machine capabilities to perform decision on its own. Then we have the type 2, which is based on the functionality. So based on functionality, we are further divided down into four sections, which is reactive machine, limited memory, theory of mind, and self-awareness. So I'll quickly introduce these terms as well. So reactive machine is in reactive machines, the most basic type of artificial intelligence, and such AI systems do not store memories or past experiences for future actions. So they don't store any past memories. while performing future actions. Second is the limited memory. So in limited memory, machines can store past experiences or some data for a very short period of time. So they do store some of the data from the past, but for a very short period of time. That is why it's named limited memory. Then we have the theory of mind. So theory of mind AI basically understands the human emotions, people believe, and be able to interact socially like humans. So in theory of mind, they learn how the human brain works, how the emotions are there, and then accordingly they can interact with humans. And the last one is the self-awareness, which is also the most powerful and the future of AI. So in this, the machines will be super intelligent and will have their own consciousness, sentiments, and self-awareness. It's pretty scary to think that in future there'll be a time when the machines will have their own intelligence and they'll be much more efficient than humans. So now let's understand machine learning. Now we have seen AI, so let's see what machine learning is. So what does machine learn? So how does machine learn? So the answer is from data. In today's world, we create huge volumes of data as we go about our everyday lives. So what data scientists do is that they collect all this data and put it in a training set. So this data can be, from anything, from text messages to emails to social media posts we share to, every day what photographers or videographers capture. So this will obviously generate massive amounts of data, and then the whole data is then processed by the data scientists. So for example, I'll give a quick example. So suppose an environmental conservation organization wants volunteers to identify and catalog different species of wildflower using a phone app. So look at this carefully. So what they do is, okay, so the first point is a team of botanists and social and data scientists collect samples of wildflower. So if you look at this, let's wait for it to start again. Yeah, so if you look at this, first they have collected all the data. So they have collected all the samples of wildflowers. Then they label it with the correct species. So if you can look at it, they have labeled it. Then third is that the labeled data is processed using an algorithm that finds relation between the features of sample and the labeled species. So think of this as the algorithm working on it. Then is the result of the algorithms are encapsulated in a model, and finally when a new sample is found by volunteers, the model can be identified. So now this new sample is found, and it can name it, and the machine was able to give the name for it. So this is how the whole in one image you can see how this whole thing works. Next is let's move to the types of machine learning. So machine learning can be classified as supervised learning and unsupervised learning, and then there's reinforcement learning also. So what happens is in supervised learning, the data used is the labeled data set to train algorithms that can classify data or predict outcomes accurately. So we just looked, the example which I just showed you is an example of the supervised learning. So basically supervised learning is when we teach or train the machine using data that was well labeled. Like in the previous case, initially the flowers were labeled. So that is when we use supervised learning. After this, the machine is provided with a new set of examples so that the supervised learning algorithm analyzes the training data set. It organizes the training data set, and then the example we just saw was based on basically the supervised learning. Then we have the unsupervised learning, which is which will identify patterns in data sets containing data points that are neither classified nor labeled. So in unsupervised learning, the AI system is presented with unlabeled, uncategorized data, and the system's algorithm act on the data without prior training. In the previous example, we saw that the data was trained on the particular flowers, but in unsupervised learning, the data is never trained. So then how does it happens? So in essence, unsupervised learning can be thought of as, learning without a teacher. So they don't, so no prior training is basically given in this. So everything is based on the machine only, how it can interpret at that time and then, label the data. Third is the reinforcement learning. So in reinforcement learning is based on Markovnikov decision process, in which a combination of an action and a particular state of the environment entirely determines the probability of getting a particular amount of reward. So particular amount of reward is that if it could identify the image or not, and how the state will change. So basically, this is probably the closest to how we as humans learn. In this case, the algorithm or the agent basically learns continually, continuously from its environment by interacting with it. So here in reinforcement learning, the environment matters. So they learn from the environment. It gets a positive or a negative reward based on its action. So let's consider the same example of customers with bank loans. A reinforcement learning algorithm looks at the information of the customers and classifies him or her on a basically high risk customer. So when the customer defaults the algorithm gets a positive reward. If the customer doesn't default the if the customer doesn't default it, then it gets a negative reward. So like this, basically they learn from the environment and then they make decisions on it. Let's look at some of the subsets of artificial intelligence. Okay, so first is the anomaly detection. So the capability to automatically detect errors or unusual activity in a system. So anomaly detection is very similar to, suppose in a racing car, you have fixed an algorithm which will measure the speed of the car and see if it has basically there's always a safe speed, and if the car has basically the speed of the car is more than the safe speed, then it will show an error or it will show a warning message. So anomaly detection is basically just detecting an anomaly in a system. Then we have computer vision. So computer vision is the capability of software to interpret the world visually through cameras, videos, and images. So for computer vision, because in the end we will also we'll do a hands-on demonstration of computer vision using OpenCV. So I've prepared a source code for you all, and I would like to just quickly show it, how it's happened. So basically what happens is, so you must know what Harry Potter's, that magic clock does. So it basically, cover, if you put it on your body, so you become invisible. So I was able to create a similar kind of thing, and I'll show the working right now. So I have saved the thing and I'll just run it. So I'll run the code. So first it will basically capture the background with the webcam, and then when I'll be in front of it, it will show that I'm invisible. And the cloth I'll be using is red. So it knows that whenever it sees a red cloth, it will merge with the background. So it's taking a little while to run. Just a second. Okay, yeah. So my camera is now, so it has captured the background, and now when I come in front of it and when I show this, so it basically shows, it's showing that I'm invisible. Why? Because this is the red cloth, and in the algorithm I've written that whenever a red cloth comes, you need to merge it. So if you can see, if I stand in front of it, I am basically, it doesn't show me. It just simply shows my chair. So that is how, you can do a lot of cool stuff with this. I hope this was, fun. So you can do a lot of cool stuff with this, with OpenCV, and we'll create a similar model in which, it will detect faces. So that was an introduction to computer vision. Next, we have language processing. So natural language processing Just a second. Yeah, so natural language processing gives the capability for a computer to interpret written or spoken language and respond in some kind. And then we have the conversational AI, which is the capability of a software agent to participate in conversations. You might all have seen the bots, whenever you visit a website, then there's always in the bottom right, there's some bot to help you out. So that is conversational AI. So they've used conversational AI to interact with humans using bots. So we'll dive deep into each one of it. Let's first understand anomaly detection. So imagine you're creating a software system to monitor racing cars, telemetry system. So telemetry system is the system, the speedometer and all the systems which are used while monitoring a racing car. So it uses sensors to proactively warn engines about potential mechanical failures before they happen. So here, these kinds of scenarios can be detected by using anomaly detection, a machine learning based technique, which we just saw, that analyzes data over time and identifies unusual changes. So, over time, it will keep learning if there's an anomaly detection or not. So if you can see in the first case, then second case, it was studying at this time. And in the third case, it saw that there was an anomaly detection. So if you look closely in the speedometer, there will be a red warning sign. So during the third case, it was able to find if there's an anomaly detection in the whole speed car or not. So the sensors. So if we look point wise, the sensors in the car collect telemetry, which is all the data such as engine revolutions, brake temperature, and so on. Then an anomaly detection model is trained to understand expected fluctuations in the telemetry measurements over time. So it will over time learn if there are any anomaly detection by using detection model. And then third, if the measurement occurs outside of the normal expected range. So normal expected range is the safe space. But if something happens above or beyond it, then the model reports an anomaly that can be used to alert the race engines to call the driver in for a pit stop to fix the issue before the forces retirement from the race. So this is a very important thing which is used in all the F1 racing cars. Next we have understanding computer vision. So computer vision is an area of AI that detects with visual processing. So most computer vision solutions are based on machine learning models that can be applied to virtual inputs from cameras, videos, or images. Like in the example I just showed you, it was able to detect from my video, which is a webcam, in the case I showed. So let's look over quickly what type of computer vision models are available. So one is object detection. So in object detection, the learning models are trained to classify individual objects in an image. If you see this whole image, these are the individual models, individual objects like this bus, car, cyclist. So it is able to classify individual objects within an image and identify their location with a bounding box. So they are able to box that image. For example, a traffic monitoring solution might use object detection to identify the location of different classes of vehicle. Like this here, it was able to identify that this thing is a bus, this is a car, and this is a cycle. So these are the different classes of vehicles. And how does it do this? So again, there was a training set back where the algorithm was fed with training images. So maybe in the training set, there were 1,000 images of the bus. So now the machine knows how does a bus look, and it is able to detect it. Similarly, 1,000 images maybe of the car were done in the training set. And then it was able to detect if this is a car or not. Then we have semantic segmentation. So semantic segmentation is an advanced machine learning technique in which individual pixels in the image are classified according to the object to which they belong. So each pixel, So obviously an image has pixels, and if you zoom this image, you'll see tiny boxes. So those are all pixels. And semantic segmentation, what it does is it is able to basically able to classify each individual pixel into an image. So here each pixel made up this bus, obviously. So it was able to color red the each pixel of the bus. And this is how it can basically, here you can see that the red is shown for bus, the blue is shown for car, and then the third green is shown for the cycles. So so for example, a traffic monitoring solution might overlay traffic images with mask layers to highlight different vehicles using specific colors, like in this case. Next, we have image classification. So an image classification, what it does is it finds the main object of the image. Like in this case, the main object of this image is a taxi. So image classification involves training a machine learning model to classify images based on their content. And what content, like an image can have various contents. The main object of that is called the content. For example, in a traffic monitoring solution, you might use an image classification model to classify images based on the type of vehicle they contain, such as taxis, buses, cyclists, and so on. So in this, it identifies the main object in the image, and then it labels it. So that is called the image classification. Again, there was a training set which was prepared, which had maybe 1,000 images of taxis. So 1,000 images of taxis showed that taxis are usually yellow in color. So that is how it could detect if there's a car which is yellow in color, it could detect that it's a taxi. Then we have image selection. So in image selection, what happens is you can create solutions that combine machine learning models with advanced image analysis techniques to extract information from images. Like here the image, it says a person with a dog on a street. So obviously this is an image analysis technique, because now here it's trying to analyze all the contents. It's seeing that there's a street, it's seeing that there's a person and a dog. It could have also written and there are taxis behind. So it basically uses various tags and then basically include them in the image, and that's how the image class selection happens. So includes tags that could help catalog the image, or even descriptive captions that summarize the scene shown in the image. And last, we have face detection, analysis, and recognition. So on face detection only, we'll be creating an OpenCV model in which it will basically detect my face with a green box around it. So face detection is a specialized form of object detection that locates human faces in an image. This can be combined with classification and facial geometry analysis techniques to infer details such as age and emotion state, and even recognize individuals based on their facial features. So a drawback in this case is that a lot of times biasing happens. Suppose if if two people are basically in a room with a person is white and the other person has a darker complexion, then a lot of times the webcam are not able to detect the person with a darker complexion. This has actually happening. That's why a lot of companies, are worried about this and have not basically using artificial intelligence. A lot of times what happened was like Samsung Mobile. So in the face recognition, when you open your mobile, there's an option if if it can automatically detect the face. So a lot of time black people, what they were facing is that the mobile was again and again showing incorrect face. Basically, it was not able to detect the owner of the mobile. That's why a huge drawback is also in this case, and people are working in order to mitigate this biasing. And the last is the optical character recognition. So an optical character recognition is a technique used to detect and read image text in an image. So you can use OCR to read text in photographs, for example, road signs or store fonts, or to extract information from scanned documents such as letter, invoices, or forms. So this was the last thing. Now let's try it out. So before moving on, a link, I'll just introduce what Microsoft Azure is. So Microsoft Azure provides a wealth of basically it provides a wealth of cloud-based services to build, test, deploy, and manage applications and services throughout Microsoft managed data centers. So these are a few features it provides, like services actually provides like AI and Internet of Things. So we'll be using the AI service which Azure provides. Then we have centralized account management. Then we have remote storage and database hosting also. So I'll quickly send this link in the chat box. And you all can also, join me. Just a second. Here. So you guys can also, open the link and try it on your own or after the workshop, whenever you feel like. So if you click on the link, there's no sign up required for this. So we'll start. So basically it will show how Azure provides computer vision. So I'll just go to
Hello everyone. I think there is some problem with Ananya's screen. I'm contacting her. I'm sure the problem will get sorted very soon.
audible. Ankur, can you please continue?
Yes, Ananya. You are
Okay, great.
audible.
Sorry for the inconvenience, guys. There was a power glitch at my place. So I hope my screen is also visible.
Yeah, ma'am.
Ankur, is my screen visible?
Yes, Ananya. You can
Okay.
continue.
Okay, great. Okay, so now we'll analyze and describe a few images. So if I take this image, so now it is basically with 100% confidence saying, basically it's associating these tags with the image like water, sky, lake, outdoor, skyscraper, reflection, overlooking, and day. So obviously it was not very confident about the day part, but others, it could see with some confidence rate. And now again, how did this happen? So there was some training data. So a training data had, they fed a lot of images in it of different buildings. And then from there, the algorithm could analyze, okay, it could see that, okay, this rectangular thing must be a building. So it was able to put 89% confidence for skyscrapers, because 89, why? Because they are in a distant and it wasn't very sure of it. But water, it knows that water is blue, and the training set was fed with suppose 100 images of water. So now it knows how a water looks. So when you give an image in the test set, it is able to detect that this part is water. Similarly, it was able to detect this is sky. So we can try with another image as well. Let's say this image. So here also now it with 100% confidence it's able to say that this this image contains some building, some car, a road, outdoor vehicle, land vehicle, like this. So again, there was some training data which was fed with the images of different things like a car, buildings, and now here it can analyze the image accordingly. Let's look at how the text is read in an image. If I click on this image, so it will show the transcript of the image, which is 42, street 42. So this 42, it was able to read this 42, it was able to read street, and it was able to read this 42 as well. So again, in the training set, a lot of different, images were fed with different fonts, different styling, different coloring. So now even it is able to even read this 42. This 42 is pretty, pretty simple to read, but it was able to read this as well. So again, it's all magic of the training set. Next, we have read handwriting. So if you look at this, it says free hugs. So again, the training set was fed with a lot of handwritings of different people with different font sizes and different style. So here it can read the transcript of this is free hugs. And last, it's recognizing celebrities and landmarks. So suppose if we take this famous landmark, so it's able to say with 99% confidence that it's a White House. Obviously, in White House, in the training set, they would fill the training set with different White House images from different angles. But generally, that has the whole image. Now here, because the trees are covering, so it's only 99% sure that this is a White House. It could be anything, but how it can say it's a White House? Because that's the majority it could find. So this is how the Azure also utilizes its computer vision, and you all can also try it out with different. There are a lot of images here. You can try out with anything if you want. So that will tell you all the transcript of the image. I hope this explains you. Now coming back to it. Okay, so natural language processing. So in the beginning, I mentioned anomaly detection, which we have covered. Then there was computer vision, and now it's natural language processing. So natural language processing is the area of AI that deals with creating software that understands written and spoken language. So the difference in this and the one which we just saw, the free hugs image, was that it was in the image. So it was detecting some language in an image, but here there won't be any image in between. It will just directly listen commands like in Google Home. So what happens in Google Home is that if you tell him that close the light, so it will close the light. How is it doing it? Using natural language processing, because all this information is already fed in the machine, that whenever somebody says this, you have to do this, somebody says that, you have to do that. So NLP enables you to create software that can analyze and interpret text in documents as well. So there's verbal, then there's written also, like in documents, email messages, and other sources. It can interpret spoken language and synthesize speech responses, which I just showed with an example. And then it can automatically translate spoken or written phrases between languages. So it can translate also. A lot of times, online Google or Microsoft translators are also there, which can translate from one language to another. So all of that is done thanks to NLP. Then it can interpret commands and determine appropriate actions as well. So, different commands whenever are given, it can do the appropriate actions. So let's try this as well. So I'll drop a link for this on the chat box. Great. So here, so in this, you can see there's a house, okay, it has 4 rooms and lights are on. Now, if I say that I need, suppose it's time to go to sleep. So think that there's, home, Microsoft Home or anything, Alexa. So if you say it's time to go to sleep, then it knows what to do and it will slowly turn off the light of the room. Because that command, whenever it's taught that whenever a command like this happens, you have to turn off the light. Now, if I say it's too dark in here, so if I say it's too dark in here, then it will automatically turn on the light. If I say I need more light to read my book, suppose, so now it should increase the contrast of the, well, there was actually already lights were on. So, okay, so give me mood lighting for cooking. So here the cooking is happening. So they should dim the lights a little bit. So with every word, like mood lighting generally associates with, dimming the light. So it knows that mood lighting means that you have to dim the light. So it will do that thing for you. So these commands are, already given to the machine. If it says I'm expecting guests, so now what it will do is it will open the front light because it knows that the guests are about to arrive. So varied, commands are given. Okay, let's see what call Batman does. So I think, yeah, so call Batman, it will open and it says mission accomplished. So this is how, you can play around with this and it's very fun. So all this now what Azure did in this is that it already, it has a predefined algorithm for it. All you need to do is just use it. So for this, you don't have to make them because Azure, Microsoft already offer these services.
Excuse me, how does that happen? We code for a machine, we give instructions. So how that it happen that if we are choosing to turn off the light, it is turning off? How does that happen? Like mechanism?
Sure. So while training the data, we already told them that whenever you want to suppose give me mood lighting for cooking. So while training, we already said that whenever it says mood lighting, you have to dim the lights. So it will learn from that only. So there's always, whenever there's an algorithm, there's always 2 parts. One is the training set and then there's the test set. So in training sets, thousand of different commands were put in the algorithm with different outputs. That okay, this command is being called, then you have to do this output. From that, the machine learns that the whole data, and then it applies here. So now this is the test set. So in testing, we are testing it. So it's working fine. So that is how you can see that the algorithm is successful. I hope that answers your question. Okay, let me know if it doesn't. I'll try to make it more explainable. Or
No, yeah, that was fine. Yeah, you
okay,
can continue. Thank you.
okay, great. All right, so now we'll come to the fun stuff, which is the last part, which is the hands-on, hands-on using OpenCV with Python for computer vision. So before diving deep into that, I'll just introduce what OpenCV is. So OpenCV is the most popular library for computer vision, originally written in C and C++, and then you can write in Python too. in one of the registration form, somebody asked that, what is the scope of C and C++ in machine learning? So I would like to answer it here only, that C and C++ has a lot of scope in machine learning, as a lot of predefined libraries are written in C and C++ because it's a high level language. So there's no need to worry, if you don't know Python, you can always code in C and C++. There's no issues with that. A lot of libraries support these languages. Now, OpenCV uses machine learning algorithms to search for faces within a picture. Because it's OpenCV, so obviously we are now talking about computer vision. And what it does, it searches for faces within a picture. Because faces are so complicated, there isn't one simple test that will tell you if it's found a face or not. Okay, because there are different features of everybody's face. Everybody's face is unique. So it's more complicated than you think. So there are thousands of small patterns and features that must be matched, in order for the algorithm to detect a face or not. So the algorithm, what it does, it breaks the task of identifying the face into thousands of smaller bit-sized tasks, each which is easy to solve. So this task is called the classifier. So think that if it has to detect a face, then it will be divided into a lot of classifiers. Now, for something like a face, you might have 6,000 or more classifiers because there are so many facial features which it has to match. So all of which must match for a face to be detected. And of course, while matching, there can be many errors. But therein lies the problem for face detection, which is that the algorithm starts from the top and it starts from the, suppose if this is the image, then it starts from the top left of the image and continues down. It continues all the way till down. So what happens is that because it has to go through every pixel and see if that's a face or not, so it will take a lot of time, and there might be like a million of calculations to do. So what we do is we use cascades in this. Now I'll explain what cascading does. So OpenCV Cascade breaks the problem of detecting face into multiple stages. So for each block of image, suppose let's say the top left block, it does a very rough and quick test. If that passes, it does a slightly more detailed test. So it will not basically try to do a test on every single block with detailing, because then it will take a lot of time. So what it does is it first does a rough quickly test. If it fails there, then it will it will directly move to the next block. But suppose if it doesn't fail, then it will continue to do a more detailed test, and so on. So the algorithm may have 30 to 50 of these stages or cascades, and it only detects a face if all stages pass. So it will keep basically it will keep digging deeper in that block, and finally it's able to say if this was a face or not. Now the cascade. So the advantage for this part is that the majority of the image will return a negative during the first few stages, which means that the algorithm won't waste time testing all 6,000 features on it. Instead of taking hours, face detection can now be done in real time. Then the second is that the cascades themselves are just a bunch of XML files that contain OpenCV data used to detect objects. So you initialize your code with the cascade you want, and then it does the work for you. So cascades are already predefined in OpenCV. Okay, you don't have to work. So if you suppose import a face cascade, then it's already written in the OpenCV library, and all you have to do is just import it, and it will do the work for you. That's how easy OpenCV does the work. So OpenCV comes with a number of built-in cascades for detecting everything from faces to eyes to hands, legs, and there are even cascades for non-human things now. So we'll be using Open Cascade of a face because we'll be detecting my face here. So first and foremost is installing OpenCV. So do you guys want to tag along with me, or should I show it? Obviously I'll be showing it, but do you guys want to do it side by side? If anybody is interested.
Side by side.
Okay, great. So you guys can then start. So first of all, I would tell you guys to open the command line. So you can do that. It's Windows plus R, and then write CMD in it for whoever, who is doing it along. So I'll go a little bit slow in this. So after opening command line, first we'll just ensure that the Python is installed. So you can write Python -- version to see which version of Python is installed. So if the Python is already installed, then it should generate a message with the Python version available, or otherwise you have to go to the Python website and download it from there. Then
please repeat the process once from the start. Windows plus R and then.
Yeah, so Windows plus R, and then write CMD in it. So CMD. So you need to write CMD in it, so it should open, a run dialog box. Okay, I'll also show. So Windows plus R, and then CMD. Okay. So this is the box which should open. And then here you are supposed to write Python hyphen version. It should tell you which Python version is available, like in mine 3.9.4. So this basically ensures that the Python is available. I hope you have done till here. And then we write pip again, and then v. So this will basically, if an error message comes, then it will show that, pip is already installed on your system. So in my case, it's already installed, so there was no error message. If in your case it's not installed, then again you have to go to the website and install all these things. And after this, you need to perform opencv-python command. This will basically start installing your opencv on the device. So you can do that. So I'll just, because mine, I know it's already there. So mine is, and then I'll import CV2. We'll be using OpenCV version 2 here, and then print CV2 dot version. So basically,
your current screen is not visible to us. Yeah, it was now loaded.
Okay, sorry. So can you see my run dialog box?
No, we are seeing a Microsoft Team page.
Okay, now is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you have to install the opencv-python by using this pip install the whole command. So let me know when that's done. Those who are doing along,
can you please share the link to download this Python version, because I can't proceed with the further.
Okay, the whole Python thing. I mean, is Python installed in your PC?
No, it's not recognizing, showing an error.
Yes, sir. Just Python download. You can just directly download from here. I'll send the link. So just click on this download Python 3.9.4. I send the link in the chat box as well. Also, those who are doing along, can you guys raise your hand so that I know how many people are doing along? Okay, because we are doing hands-on, I'll encourage others also. Okay, great. I love the participation. Thank you all. Okay, done with 5 steps. Great. So this should show
Ma'am,
mesh,
CMD was not able to recognize my Python version.
which was not able to recognize. Sorry.
CMD.
Did you try Python? So maybe. So is there an error message showing?
No, ma'am.
Like what is it showing?
Could you please bring that code, that window? I was writing the commands in mine.
Yeah. The run dialog box.
Yeah.
It should show on my screen. I'm okay. Wait, I'll do it again. Sorry.
It's visible.
Python version, and then after this you do pip. Um, so it doesn't show any. So I won't perform the pip install OpenCV thing because it's already installed. So you guys can perform that. It will take some time to load, and then you guys can just write Python here. So it should basically fire up the Python, and then here we write import CV2, and then we write print CV2 dot underscore 2 underscores version underscore and then bracket close. So like here it was able to show 4.5.1. That means this version of CV2 has been installed and it's successful. So any doubts till now? Done with 5 step, okay. So I hope everybody's OpenCV is now installed and you guys can see the version which was installed. Okay, so now because it's installed, so you guys can close it. I'll just minimize it. And now let's go to the IDE. So you guys can open any text editor you want and create a file face.py. So I have already created the file, it's empty. And step by step I'll keep writing the code, and then you guys and also keep explaining it. Okay. So first, what we should I start? If anybody wants me to wait, then I'll do that. Any issues with anybody? Okay, so I think I'll start. So first, I'll do import CV2. So the first task is that we are importing the OpenCV version 2 by writing import CV2. Then we write import SYS. Sorry, next line. Yeah. So import SYS, what it does is it will import SYS in our system as it's necessary to import. It's necessary because this module, it will basically run all the functions. So this system module is necessary to import. And now we'll write face cascade. So face cascade equals to, I'll just first write the command and then explain it. So cascade classifier, it has already suggested me CV2 dot data dot Harris-Gates and then plus, we'll write just quickly checking. Okay, so what this will do is, it's basically first we are importing the XML file, which I told you that OpenCV works on .xml. So we are importing it by, we have first created a cascade. So our cascade name is face cascade because, we'll be recognizing faces. And then this loads the face cascade into memory, so it's ready for use. And remember, the cascade is just a XML file that contains the data to detect faces. So we have imported this. I'll just quickly check. You guys can also, start writing. So okay, cv2.cascade.classifier. This should work. Okay, next what we'll do is we'll write video capture. So video underscore capture equal to cv2 dot video capture, and then we'll write 0 in it. So now what this is doing is, we'll set the video source to the default webcam because, webcam is the only way it can, see my face. So we are setting it default to webcam, which OpenCV can easily capture. So this is what we are doing here. So video capture, we are setting it to default. So 0 here is default, which will basically tell that you have to capture whenever a face comes on a webcam. Okay, then what we'll do is we'll write while true. So while true hyphen. So what while true is doing is, now it's turned to capture the video frame by frame. Okay, because in every frame I might be moving, so every frame will be different. So now it will capture frame by frame. So while true ensures that, sorry, the while small w. Okay, so while true will ensure that, and now we'll capture frame by frame. So I'll just write a comment, capture frame by frame. Okay, so now here, again, I'll just write the code first and then explain. Frame equal to video capture dot read, and then this. Okay, so now what it's doing is, the read function will basically read our frame, will read the frame from the video source, which is the webcam in this case, and it will return something. So now it will return a few things like gray equal to cv2 dot cvt color, yes, and then we write frame comma cv2 color, and then we write bg. So bgr is blue, green, red, which are the main composites of an image, and we are converting it into gray. So what we are doing is, we are making our the video which is captured into grayscale. So we are doing gray equals to cv2 dot cvt is convert. So convert color of the frame, comma cv2, obviously you are taking the library, and then color underscore bgr to gray. So it's converting blue, green, red to gray. And the other thing, this thing I've already mentioned, that this will read all the frames from the video, from the webcam. Okay, so after this we'll do faces equal to, I hope I'm not going too fast. If you think, then please do stop me. So faces equal to face cascade again dot detect, and we'll basically multi-scale, so it's already suggesting me, and then gray comma scale factor equals to 1.1. I'll just explain this. Let me first write it. Yes. Okay. So now what we are doing is, so I told you that first it's basically reading all the images, frame by frame, and then we are converting our image into grayscale by writing color underscore BGR to gray. And after that, it will return. So this return thing will basically tell us if we want to run out. Okay, so the actual video frame will read, so it will read in a loop because, you have provided the loop here. So it will return code and then it will return code. So the return code will tell us if we have run out of frames. So if that will happen, then it will, exit out from the code. So that will happen only when you turn off the webcam, sorry. And here this is basically okay. So the multi detect function, what it will do is it is a general function that detects objects. So since we are calling it a face cascade, it is what it will do. So this multi-scale will just generally detects objects, but because we have called face cascade here, it knows that you have to detect faces in it. And then in the first option, it's a grayscale images. That's why I've written gray here. Then the scale factor is equal to 1.1. So what it does is, suppose since some faces may be closer to the camera, then it would appear bigger, and some in the back would appear smaller. So this scale factor will basically compensate on that, and it will make the images all with the same ratio. So 1.1 is that ratio. Then min neighbors, what this will do is that the detection algorithm uses a moving window to detect objects, obviously because I'll be moving on my webcam. So min neighbors detects how many objects are detected near the current one before it declares the face found. So it will basically, we have set it to 5 because it will, this is the time frame. So after 5 seconds, it will start the detection. So that is because, there might be a case when somebody is not ready. So it will not continue, it will not, just instantly start to detect. It will take some time and then it will detect. So that is what we have mentioned there. And then min size, so min size gives the size of each window, which is 30,30 here. And the last thing, the flag thing, it's the expression. So is trying to find the named constant, this thing, within the CV submodule. So if you see at the packages, which are installed with the open with the version 2. So this is basically, it's just, trying to import it from there. So the CV2 package is imported. Now we'll come out of this thing and we'll draw. Now it's time to draw some rectangle around the face. So I'll write draw rectangles around the face, around the faces. So here for x comma y comma, I hope it's clear till now. CV2 dot rectangle. So I'll just explain this in a bit. Okay. So what this is doing is, now you have to now basically draw a rectangle. So x, y, w, and h, what they are doing is, these are the this function returns basically 4 values. The x and y is the location of the rectangle, and the rectangle's width and height is w and h. So x and y will, is somebody's mic on? Could you please turn off your mic if you don't have any questions? Thank you. So what this does is, so X and Y will basically tell you the coordinates of the box where the rectangle is there, and W and H will tell you the width and the height. That's why I've named W and H. So we use these values to draw a rectangle using a built-in rectangle function, and I've used the rectangle function, which is a built-in function. So I've called that function and I've just put these values in it. Next is that we display the, now we have to basically display the resulting frame, obviously. So, right, display resulting frame. Display resulting frame, we write cv2 dot im show, and then we want it in a video format, and it has to detect from frame. I'll quickly complete this. So if cv2 dot weight key equals to 1, so basically we are telling that, you know, if a user presses Q, then you have to exit out, then you have to break. Then you have to break. Okay, so I'll quickly explain this part. So when the this will display the resulting frame by searching for the frame in our captured frame. Okay, so this thing will display that, you know, that green box which we need to display. So it will im show is another, it is another, you know, you import it, so cv2.im show, and it will show it in a video format. Obviously we don't want it to click pictures, we want it, you know, that I am moving, so that my box should also move along with me, and it has to capture from all the frames. And here we wait for the Q key to be pressed. So we are waiting for the Q key to be pressed. If it's pressed, then we exit the whole script. And in the end, we'll write when everything is done. So we write video capture dot release. So we have to release it. We have to release this thing, and also dot destroy. So we need to destroy all windows as well. So this will basically destroy all the windows, you know, which were open during this thing. And this is how it will exit out of this whole thing. Just, okay. So this is the whole code here. I hope I have explained it properly. If you have any doubts, you guys can answer, and then we'll run it. I'm just looking, you know, if there's a mistake. Okay, hopefully it should work. I hope so. So now I'll run it. It will take a while. You guys can also run along with it and see if, you know, it works or not. Okay, video.
Ananya, I think it is an indentation error. Please press a backspace before window. Yes, it's there. I think it should work.
Yes. Yeah, that is why. Okay, thanks. Yep. Min neighbors. Oh, yeah. So min neighbors, sorry, M should be small. Sorry about that. Also, do let me know if your guys' code is working. Now what? Mm. I'm trying to find the error. That is why I have it ready. Let's try. Hopefully it works now. Okay, yes, it works. So here, if you can see this on my face, it was able to detect green box. And suppose here also, if I show the image, then it's able to detect all these three boxes as well. So if I move, then also it's able to detect my face, and that's how it's created. I hope you guys understood this thing. And if you guys have any doubts, you guys can feel free to ask me. Is it working for you guys? Did you guys check? Your code has an error. Okay, what I can do is, I can copy paste it. And I'll try to upload it here also so that, yeah, so this is the whole code. I've shared it with you guys. Now I won't be able to, tell why it wasn't. Okay, so this was the error. So let me know if the code which I just shared works or not. Indentation error in the code which I sent. Oh, which you typed. Okay, so basically you guys can compare this code with the codes which you have typed. There can be some indentation errors. But other than that, those codes which have worked, you guys can write on the chat box. I would love to see that. And if you guys have any doubts, feel free to ask. Okay, so did any of you guys were able to do it? Okay, the difference between your code and... Yeah, sure, I'll show the CMD codes as well. So this is the CMD code. Done, got it? Good. Yeah, the M was small. Yeah, I by mistake, I had put a capital M there. It's working. Great, Ayush. Okay, now it's working. Great. So, did that M only fix the problem, or there was some other issue as well? Yeah, but in like it's not that neighbors wala neighbor. So this neighbors is the only, the correct spelling which is used. Chanchal, you could maybe send the code, or you can maybe screen share and I'll take a look. Or you can send it in the chat box and I'll try to see if I'm able to find an error. I hope it's working for everybody else as well. And the recordings will be available so you guys can try it out whenever you want. I've also sent the code here in the chat box. Okay, I'll try to see. So in this case, it works with the camera live footage because we have shown video capture 0. So that means that it has to straight away take from the webcam. So that is why it's live. Otherwise, I'm sure, if there might be some other way for it to detect in any older recording. I hope that answers the question. I'll try to run it here. Otherwise, guys, if you're able to spot any error in Chanchala's code, then do let me know, or her. I'm also trying to see. Okay, yeah, wait, there's an indentation error here. Chanchala, maybe try this cv2.imshow. It should be just, below the rectangle thing. Yeah, I fixed that bracket thing.
Ananya, is there any chat issue in my ID?
Chat it.
Because I can't able to send my message.
Oh, I'll just check. There shouldn't be any. I don't think so, because it's open for everybody. Maybe you can unmute and ask if you have a doubt.
What was the solution that you gave if it's coming no module name CV2 or CV2 is not defined?
Yeah, this is the solution. Basically, are you asking for the code which I sent?
No. For the first part, for the where we had to write in the commands, what was the solution? For my information, I just want to get it. I have done it, but
This
I
one?
want to know if this problem occurs, what should we do? Yeah.
Okay. You mean in this box?
Yeah.
Okay. So, is your Python installed? Like, does it
Yeah.
show the version?
Yeah.
Okay. And after that, if you try pip install.
Yeah.
Right?
That also works. Yeah.
So, in which line is the error coming?
When I'm writing import CV2.
Okay. Import CV2. Did you write Python here first?
Yeah.
And then when the
This
okay.
arrow, three arrows came, and then import CV2. So, and then module not
Okay,
found error.
maybe that's because I didn't do this command, which is somebody in the chat also wrote, which is open C. You are installing when you're installing. So pip install opencv hyphen python this line. Maybe that's missing. That's why it's not showing.
Okay, ठीक है. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it in the chat box if you want. So I didn't write that because, oops, why is it so big? So I didn't write that because it was already installed in my case, but it needs to be installed in yours as well. Okay, yeah, this problem. Chanchal, I'll try to look at your code and see if I can find it. Otherwise, for everybody else, is there any doubts? Or I hope it works.
Actually, I installed the Python thing, and but still the command prompt is not recognizing, so I further couldn't proceed with the further thing. So can you please help me out?
Oh.
What could be the issue?
So when you're writing CMD, and then what happens? Like, is CMD opening this
The
run?
command prompt is opening, but it's throwing Python was not found.
Okay, so maybe you can try to reinstall it again, because it should happen from here. I'm not sure why it's not coming.
Okay, I'll try it again. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Where we have to write this command, pip install opencv python.
So you write it just after pip v
Okay.
hyphen v. After this you'll write, and then you write Python. So it should work. So for others, who were able to, perform the whole code and were able to see, can you guys raise your hand so that I can see? Okay, great. 3 people were able to. Others, if you're struggling at any point, do let me know. There's a spelling mistake. Yeah, the Python camera will not stop. Actually, I also faced that problem. So you need to save your code, and if you turn off your VS Code, then it will stop. Chanchula, can you tell me where the spelling mistake was? Okay, in Harsh code. Yeah, no, yeah, here only, right? I'll just basically try your code on my PC as well. Still some. Did I forget M? Yes, I forgot M. Okay, guys, and okay, and I'll just send the feedback form in the chat, because that will contain your email ID, and that is very, very important, because I'll be able to send the certificates on that only. Okay, great, Chanchula, that it's working. So just a second, I'll first send the feedback form. Okay, this is the feedback form. Do fill it, guys, because then only I'll be able to send the certificates through email. Yeah, you can maybe use this direct link also. Okay, great, Jagannath, that it worked.
Ma'am, can you please send the feedback link in the WhatsApp?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll do that as well.
It's not open now. Please give us the permission to fill in the form.
Just a second. Just a second, guys. I'm just logging in.
Ma'am, is there any sign-in required to fill this form?
Yeah, actually, I'll just do it. I have to change an option. I by mistake. No, I haven't. Mm. I'm not able to make the changes. It should be. Are you guys all in the WhatsApp group? Because I'll send it there only. If not, I'll just send the link of the WhatsApp group and you guys can join. Meanwhile, I'm trying to resolve it, but somehow it's not opening for me.
Okay, take your time. Send us on WhatsApp. We'll be there on WhatsApp.
Yeah, I'll just drop the link also for those, you know, who are not in the group. Okay, I've dropped the link. You guys can join here and I'll send the feedback form there only. Otherwise, wait, let me just share my screen. Okay. So after this, actually I didn't end the program in the workshop. So the summary is just, you know, that artificial intelligence enables the creation of powerful solutions to many kinds of problems. AI systems can exhibit human characters to analyze the world around them. But with, you know, with this power comes responsibility. So as developers of AI solution, we must apply principles that ensure that everyone benefits from it and, you know, nobody is at a disadvantage. So Q&A session. So, you know, if still there are any doubts remaining, you guys can feel free to comment it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, you guys can just join the WhatsApp group and I'll just, in a short while, I'll just send the feedback form. So I think there are no doubts. So thank you so much for everybody who joined me. I hope, you know, this was also my first session, so I hope everybody loved it. And and in the feedback form, feel free to, you know, give any suggestions or improvements which I can make for the upcoming similar sessions which we'll be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Such a great session it was. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am.